Okay, carry on.
And Rich, what brings you out here today?
Well, sort of basically, as we've been hearing about all day, there's horrific war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and the treatment of the Palestinians in Gaza, and even on the West Bank, the Israeli government is still stealing land from the Palestinian people. They're still building that hideous wall right the way around to shut the Palestinian people out of their own land. I mean, in Iraq, there's been almost a sort of million dead. There's been something like 2.5 million people fled their sort of country into sort of neighbouring sort of countries. And a few of them have even fled here. And now this rotten sort of government we've got is even saying it's now safe to go back in Iraq, in spite of the fact that every day we hear of people being murdered in Iraq. So they've got a sort of a terrible choice. Go back, take your kids back and face that hell, or you starve here. And that is the kind of people we got in that bloody place over there.
And you know, you've seen a few wars in your lifetime, and you know, and leading up to today, how, you know, from your life's perspective, how do you see the progression? You know, when was the first time that you kind of really noticed this kind of war machine?
I first really become conscious of it in the Korean War, which was about 1950-54, something like that. I can't remember the exact date. But it's interesting, in the Korean War, lots of people remember how many Americans lost their lives. I think it was 56,000. But they never mentioned how many Koreans lost their life inside their own country. And it was something in the region of 5 million North Koreans lost their lives inside their own country. And what is more, they tried out their new sort of chemical weapons in North Korea. And as we know later, they were using nuclear weapons, and not nuclear, they were using sort of chemical and biological weapons in Vietnam. Yeah. So it's been a very horrendous time, actually. I mean, I suppose I first became conscious that I was quite young. My sort of brother was in World War II, and at that time the sort of Cold War sort of started just after the war, and I was only a youngster, and I said to my brother, Christ, we've just had one war, it looks as though they're getting prepared for another one. And I suppose even then I had a little gleam that sort of something was wrong, because, as you know, the Russians in World War II were our allies, and immediately after this terrible Cold War sort of came on, and of course you always blame the other side. Always you see the Palestinians are wrong, the Iraqis are wrong, the Russians are wrong, everybody's bloody wrong. But these people who think they're sort of Boy Scouts or something, with sort of pure hearts going out just to put the world right. They always look upon the world as a white man's sort of burden. Dreadful people. But there it is.
Do you think there's any extenuous, like say, corporate or banking pressure on this people who work in this building across the road to really make this policy the way it is today?
Well, it is their sort of government. I mean, if you look back in the history of our country, the House of the Parliament was always nothing to do with the people out in the street. It was always to do with those of wealth and power. And it was always to do with wealth and power. And even going back hundreds of years, when the church and the sort of landed aristocracy were the main force, again, it wasn't run for the people. The main job of it was to keep the people in line. And if you couldn't keep them in line, put them down. So that's been going on for a long time, and we have today the multinationals, the big financial institutions. You can see the way the finances run in this country. You can get a rotten bank with corrupt people in the banking industry. No one had ever actually heard of sort of Northern Rock until it came up, and yet now the taxpayer has got to dish out billions of money, not for some sort of upright firm, but for a rotten one. And all this war, you know, I think it runs into about 10 billion pounds so far since the war did start about 5 years ago, wasn't it? And it's an astronomical sum of money. Now you might say, well, God, what could they have done with that £10 million with hospitals, education, health systems and improving the environment? The point is that's not what the government's about. The government is about running things for big business in their interest. And you only have to see whether it's Heathrow Airport or whatever it is, they've always got the ear to the government. You see, lots of these people in the government, they start out on the left and they end up on the right. Yeah. You see it happening all the time. And if you go back some of their speeches, you'd think they were the sort of general sort of secretary of the Communist Party, the way they used to speak. But now they changed. Yeah. Pressure.
Privatisation.
Privatisation, that's one of their sort of pets. They want to sort of privatise every single thing. And even down where I live, they're starting to introduce private healthcare in a small way. I've written to the local health authority about it. It took a month to write back, and eventually they said, we hope you're wrong about the fears you've expressed in your letter, but it's still going to go ahead. And that's the sad state of affairs we've got here.
Tell us about your sign around your neck here.
Well, they're everywhere, aren't they? Yeah. They literally run the show. They run the show and they tell everybody else what to do, and a lot of people willingly go along with them.
Acquiesce.
Well, acquiesce and take part, like they do. A lot of the EU countries vote for the sort of policies to keep the people in sort of Gaza without water and without power. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting to treat sort of people like that. And they've got no sort of conscience about it at all. And it'll only change when we've not got sort of thousands, we've got millions of people are sick to the back teeth of them, then they can be got sort of shot of. But it does take time, I'm afraid. Historical time and individual time are two different things. If I took it as just individual time, it ought to have happened by now. But of course, it's not like that. Change takes place over a long historical period of time. Sometimes it takes place fast in a few years. Other times it drags on the same way for sort of decades and decades. And I hope it's not going to be like that for much longer, obviously.
Well, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Especially for that last segment. It was very good. Would you mind us using this in a documentary?
No, not at all.
If we had to use it, how could we contact you? By email or something like that?
No, I'm not on email.
Or by telephone?
I haven't sort of stepped into the 21st century yet.
If you could tell us your name and phone number, and then if we do use it, we'll be able to contact you.
My name is Mr. Reg Hennessy, that's HENNESSEY. I live at 17, that's 17, Castle Road, Whitstable in Kent, CT5 2DY.
Okay.
Phone number, you'll have to look up what Whitstable is in the book, but it's Whitstable 275046.
Okay.
Okay.
Rich, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Great.
Thank you, Comrade. Thank you. Pleasure. Bye.